Now, believe it or not, there are other quarter-finals going on in this World Cup that do not involve England. So let's talk about two of them. I can't really be bothered to talk about Russia and Croatia. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, if we get to it. But on the other half of the draw, thank God we dodged that, eh? I mean, that looks like two semi-finals rather than quarter-finals. We've got France against Uruguay, Brazil against Belgium. Let's talk about both of them individually. France-Uruguay in particular, I think, could be the game of the tournament if it goes the way it might, because they were both mighty impressive in their second round games in different ways. First of all, Tom, France. What did you make of France in their big win?
I mean, it's going to sound very much like Love Island, but on paper, France looked like before the World Cup started, they had the best squad in terms of players to bring on. If you have the likes of Giroud that can change a game, and he's on the bench, I think they're looking very hopeful. And the way that Mbappe was at least playing today, I think there's been a report that he might be going to Real Madrid, but he was phenomenal in the last round. So I think Uruguay are going to struggle with his speed, but they've got the likes of Godin, who I think is one of the best defenders, top 5 defenders in the world, and his competitiveness. And I think that Uruguay will probably grind out Brazil. I can see them going through.
You think so? I mean, quite aside from Uruguay's defence, Dan, it was said repeatedly by different people after that second round game for Uruguay that as a two-man attack, which you don't see very often nowadays in that kind of formation, but Cavani and Suarez put on an absolute clinic of what it is to run an attack that way.
Yeah, what a 1-2 for their first goal. It was incredible. I heard Cavani described as the first box-to-box attacker the other day because he runs so far. But
I love it when people analyse using purely football manager language. Brilliant.
But I actually think Uruguay might get a result here because there's no way they're going to give them the space that Argentina did. And France, you give France that amount of space and they'll play like that. The issue they've had is coming up against tight defences, which Uruguay will be. So Uruguay will sit back, hit them on the counter. Yeah, I think that would be a good one. But nowhere near as open as the second.
Okay, let's talk about the second. Brazil and Belgium going to collide in the second quarter-final on Friday night. That promises to be quite the corker as well. What do we think? Brazil looked pretty solid, pretty comfortable in their second round match, didn't they?
I'd quite like to see Neymar go out the tournament. Not going to lie.
I think we all would. Yeah.
But Brazil to go through.
Yeah, I would rather. I think I'd be a lot more worried playing Belgium in the final than Brazil. I think Brazil are not the best at the back. And I'd probably prefer to try and defeat them.
What do you think? Who do you think we are more likely to get in the final if we got there? Do you think who's going to win this
Uruguay?
All right, but of Brazil and Belgium,
I've got them in the sweepstake.
Yeah, I had Belgium, so I'm still alive. Just
my office is just me, so I've got everyone no one.
Yeah, Belgium over Brazil.
No, Brazil over Belgium.
Why?
I think their defence isn't as good. The psychological factor of we haven't played them and already lost. They would probably be a lot more open. I mean, their team is actually a lot more built on defence than people realise since the new coach came in. But I mean, Belgium's defence is so good, and as is their attacking talent. And I think if you nullify Neymar to an extent, Brazil are sort of slightly nullified, shall we say? Maybe
does it
blunted, but
psychologically, does it matter if you have a more dramatic way through into the quarterfinals? So, like for England, for example, big drama that's going to have given them self-confidence given the circumstances. For Belgium, a real character-building win from 2-0 down to 3-2. I wonder whether that gives Belgium a bit more momentum going in than Brazil, who had a fairly routine day at the office. Or is that nonsense, or is there something to that?
No, I think absolutely. Psychologically, you create a togetherness in the squad that you've all come through this sort of a really downplayed, downtrodden and hard fought win, as opposed to just like a routine 3-0 win or 2-0 win. Like, so what? It's not going to bring you closer to someone.
I thought Dan was going to do a Rocky Balboa.
He's always just seconds away from a Rocky Balboa quote. Very briefly, the other thing we haven't really talked about from the second round is, or going into the quarterfinals, is that obviously the World Cup will now be missing the two biggest superstars in world football, in that Messi and Ronaldo both eliminated at this stage of the tournament. Does that matter? Does that diminish this World Cup in any way, or not?
I couldn't care less that they're not in the tournament. All that matters is Harry Kane lifting the trophy.
Yeah, the real world's best player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fed about the whole debate, like, will Messi win like a World Cup ever in his career? I mean, he doesn't need that to be classed as one of the great players. Ronaldo's won the Euros. I believe it was left to like a crappy Swansea striker to score the winning goal in that. So,
no one's saying that George Best wasn't one of the better players in history just because he never went to a World Cup. Exactly.
No, the thing about Messi was obviously it was spread by Maradona.
Yeah.
Stupidly reductive.
Yeah, there we are. Maradona hasn't really covered himself in glory in this World Cup, one way or another, or in any World Cup. In
has
terms
he
of his
ever?
attitude. No, there we go. All right, let us know what you think about the other half of the draw. That genius move by us to deliberately lose to Belgium, so we didn't have to be involved in any of this. France versus Uruguay, Brazil versus Belgium. Which of those 4 teams, because only one of them can emerge to make the final, which one of them do you think it's going to be?